Hey guys, how you doing today? Just getting off work. I'm feeling real tired today. Anytime I do like a close and then an open, it's just a bad scene. You know, you get home from work, you can't just go to bed, you know, because you gotta decompress from the day, right? You gotta eat, I work out right after work. You know, so you gotta do these things that you do normally. And you close down the shop and then turn around, go back in the next morning. You know, it never feels like you had time to yourself on that day. You know, I'm fortunate. I only have to do that every so often, once a week, really. But I know people who are doing that kind of stuff all the time, because that's just capitalism for you, right? You got to go where the work is. What's banging around in my head today? You know what? What the hell? Let's talk about the Bible, huh? Let's be fascinating today. Why not? Full disclosure, my background is evangelical Christianity. I grew up in the Alliance churches. They're not that much different than the evangelical movement in the United States. They called themselves non-denominational because they wanted to create their own denomination of, batshit crazy people. Evangelical Christianity. I think the only thing that would be worse than it would be Catholicism. Because, you know, we're not dodging pedophiles in the evangelical tradition the way that the Catholics had to. So, really, I think moving forward politically, one of the most important things that we should be doing is taking away the tools of the fascists. I think that's going to be very important. Removing any legitimacy they have. Because ultimately the fascists only have one tool, and that's violence. That is their tool, that is their form of communication. Everything else they use is just a way to obfuscate, a way to create illusions and pretend as though they have legitimacy. So for example, right now in the United States, there's a growing Nazi movement, and their position is, oh, you can't silence us, we're just exercising our right to free speech. Now, here in Canada, God bless Canada, we figured this out. If you're going to stand up and you're going to say we should commit violence against a group of people based on anything, based on their race, based on their political alignment, we here in Canada don't call that free speech. That's not protected speech. You don't get to stand up and say we should do violence against a group of people. That's not considered free speech. We actually, here in Toronto, sent someone to prison recently for spreading around a pamphlet that called for the rounding up of the Jews. So that's something we take seriously here in Canada. Not so in the United States, because in the United States there's sort of this lawlessness in regards to speech. You can say what you want, is the claim. But speech is an action. Speech is something that you do. And if you say, let's go kill that guy, well, it stands to reason that what follows is the act of killing that guy. And so, if you say, let's kill that guy, well, that should be considered something worthy of incrimination. And so, the Nazis in America hide behind this. They have this pretend narrative that they use. Hey, we're just exercising our free speech, our rights to articulate ourselves freely. I've even heard people say things like, we're just expressing ourselves artistically, right? We don't actually want to kill these people. We're just venting our frustrations. Oh, and you could turn around then and be like, oh yeah, so like how Muslim countries would say like death to America, right? They're just exercising their right of expression artistically, right? Oh, well, now it's different. Interesting how that works. So, this is something they've done with the Bible. That they lay claim to having intellectual superiority and intellectual knowledge of the Bible, when in reality they are frauds, charlatans. And it's gotten so egregious and so obvious on such an enormous sort of scale that I'm actually beginning to call for a reclaiming of the Bible from a secular society. I think that the best thing to do to these fascists and conservatives, if you want to create the distinction, which I don't, the thing to do to these fascists is for non-believers, for people who do not believe that the magic is real, for people who do not believe that Christ is the Savior who is coming to redeem you, for the people who do not think that the book, the Bible, is a holy document that is sacred, for these people to seize this document and to use it as a weapon against the charlatans and the heretics and the idiots who have claimed the Bible as this wizardly, miraculous document full of miracles and magic and wonder, as if it's this literal document to be taken as seriously as a legal document, when any fool with a brain in their head can see that the Bible, first of all, is a hodgepodge of books with various intentions and various intents, some being letters, some being stories with magic in it. Like, the stories of Christ are obviously magical stories. Like Harry Potter. Like Star Wars. These aren't supposed to be read as, and then Christ literally raised someone from the dead. These are supposed to tie in to mystical traditions and other magical stories. The figure of Christ being someone who resurrects people, well, that ties into Roman and Greek stories, where there were figures who were, guess what, resurrecting people from the dead. Commonly understood, commonly known during that period, and honestly throughout. Christ isn't a unique figure with his death and resurrection story. There were many Greek gods and Roman gods who died and were resurrected. This resurrection narrative, it stands for something in this tradition. In any case, I feel like if secular people and secular sources started to stand up against these liars and these fools who are saying things like, oh, well, you should stand up on your own 2 feet, right? You should be an individual. Well, didn't Christ say things like, give all your money to the poor? It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Didn't he constantly say things like, give money away, give money to the poor? But to hear these Republicans and these conservatives and these hard-right fascists talk about it, well, they just omit that. That's just not something that they take seriously. Because the reality is that what they've done is that they've clutched so closely and so tightly to the Bible that no one is permitted to open it, to read it, least of all themselves. And so they're basically ignorant of the text. And if you read the Bible, which I recommend everyone does, I think it's good to read the Bible, if only as a document to be read to understand your enemy. And fascists, guess what? They're your enemy. And they clutch to that Bible. The Ku Klux Klan claims to be a Christian organization, right? And when Trump says America first, that's a Ku Klux Klan slogan. You should know that. You should be aware of that. And so these Christian fascists who exist in the world are using the Bible as a tool to mask their fascism, their bigotry, and their hatred. And they can be dismantled and they can be disarmed to reveal them as the frauds that they are. Easily. You just need to read the New Testament one time. If you have the courage and the wherewithal and the desire, you can go through the Old Testament, what's known as the Torah, if you're a Jew. I skip numbers. I recommend the book of Ecclesiastes. I recommend the book of Job. The book of Job brings some of these arch conservatives, especially the ones claiming to be intellectuals when they're really illiterate idiots. The book of Job brings these guys to their knees. The book of Job ends this conversation of, oh, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You can do it. Individual power is what matters. The book of Job renders that argument a fool's argument. Something only an idiot would say. You're honestly telling me that you genuinely believe that a single individual's effort is worth more than the collected energy of all other humans, let alone the collected energy of all the forces of the universe that have existed throughout all time? What are you, stupid? And the answer is yes, obviously. Obviously they're stupid. Obviously they're out of touch. Obviously they don't know what they're talking about. These people that stand up and say that, oh, meritocracy is a legitimate thing, that definitely exists. These people are delusional. They're the primary beneficiaries of a system that has discarded hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. These people who stand upon the shoulders of their ancestors, upon lands that have been stolen, upon brutal oppression and death, to get them to where they are, and then turn around and say, I got here on my own. There is no more arrogant statement that can be made than I'm here by my own energy, while your parents, your grandparents, your government, throughout not even ancient history, throughout the very recent history, have done everything they can to get you into the position that you find yourself in right now. And sure, you showed up. That's helpful. But for God's sakes, if you, let's say you were on the business path, you were ascending the corporate ladder. Well, all it takes is for the investor group that owns your company to do one shakeup at the wrong time in your life and to lay you off and to throw you out. And then suddenly you're told, oh, just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get it done, right? Well, guess what? Life's not like that, right? You try to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, continue on with your life. There are plenty of people, you can find them. They exist, they are real, who find themselves on the streets with a boot on their back and a gun in their face. And if you don't think that that exists, then you're out of touch and you're delusional. And it really is that simple. And the thing to do with these frauds is to grab that Bible out of their hand, because they're always some kind of Bible thumping idiot. Grab that Bible out of their hand, open it up to the book of Job or to the words of Christ, and just quote it. Just quote their own stuff to them. And then they're going to realize, and they're going to see, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. I can't use my fraudulent nonsense against him. I'll just revert to the only thing I actually have, which is the act of violence. Because these people, they're not using the Bible out of love. They're using the Bible to keep you down. Because that's what fascists do. Oh, that's uplifting. I hope you guys are having a good time. I really do. I hope you guys are holding your friends and your families close. I hope you're discovering love. I hope you're spreading love. I hope you're fighting the fascists. I love you. I hope you're having fun out there. Good luck.